Welcome to You and Me in Orbit, your astro spell guide to understanding how astrology can work for you. I'm Karrie, your astrological empowerment counselor, and in real life, I guide individuals, couples, family members, business partners, and workplace teams through learning how to use the ancient tool of astrology to create more clarity, more compassion, and more intimacy within their connections. Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Karrie, your astrological empowerment coach. And I am here with another episode of You and Me in Orbit. I'm so excited to have these two people. We've been trying to get this together for some time now. I'm so excited to have Will and Ka with me today, Will and Ka Home. And one of the reasons, not only do I really love the two of you individually, I am so excited to love the two of you together. And one of the reasons I really wanted you to do an episode was Will and Ka are an example of two people who met and kind of instantly connected and had a whole love affair, and it continues. And these are kind of things that we only hear about in movies, but they happen all the time in astrology. And so I really wanted to show everyone what's the chemistry, what's the astrological makeup of these two very special beings together, and what was going on when they met and made this connection. So, Will and Ka, do you want to say anything before we dive in?
I'm just excited. I think you're amazing too. And I love the astrology you bring to the Tea Temple. And so I'm just excited to hear what you interpret and see. And yeah, I love astrology too.
I guess I'd just say I'm excited as well, but I remember how seen I felt when you did that small, quick little sample reading for all the coworkers originally. I just felt like it was eye-opening for me. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Blessings to the two of you. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
All right, we're going to dive right in. I had a lot of fun looking at your charts. We're only going to do a small snippet today because we're trying to keep these to a short amount of time, but man, I could just dive in here forever with the two of you. Have you seen your charts together? I'm pretty sure you have, right?
I have.
Yeah, because Ka is, she's definitely on it with the astrology and the tarot. But this is a very basic, astro.com chart. I really love to use it because a lot of the people who listen to the podcast are new to astrology, and this is a great little website that is easy to navigate for the beginner. But if you're looking at this synastry chart, and this is the synastry chart represents two people in a relationship, the outside, the red symbols are going to be Will, and the blue symbols are going to be Ka in the middle. Okay. And so I like to start off with the holy trifecta for each person. If you know nothing about your astrology chart, you should know your holy trifecta. That's your sun, moon, and rising. That will give you kind of a snapshot. It's certainly not the whole person, but it is a snapshot. And so I want to start with Will, because I think this is a really interesting makeup that the two of you have. You both have a very dreamy appearance. That's always been the case individually and together. So I was so interested in where is their Neptune? Where is their Pisces? What's going on? So for Will, he is a sun sign Libra. And the Libra is very much a lover energy. Libra is ruled by Venus. This is a very gentle and peacemaking individual. But as you and I both know, Will, you got that double Scorpio going on as well, right? Okay. And that can be a really interesting thing to hold and balance, Will has his sun sign in Libra, but he has his moon in Scorpio, and he also has his rising sign there. And this is basically kind of the balance between air and water. It's like balancing depth and balancing light at the same time. And I actually think if we were to go a little bit further, it would be the balancing of codependence and independence, and kind of having this interdependence. This is the work of Will, being able to see very deeply into people, but to still just kind of float above the surface, and not get, it's like almost like a hummingbird quality, the ability to kind of come in and just like zap into a person and then also kind of run back out again and just kind of like give them a little bit of medicine and then back away. He has that ability with his presence, but also with his musicianship as well. If you've ever heard Will sing and bless us with that. For Ka, what I think is so interesting, Ka is interesting, period. Like
Curious.
right? Like ever since I've met you, I was like, this is just a walking contradiction, but it's beautiful. Okay. So it's like her sun is in Aquarius, and I'm a big fan of an Aquarius. I am a Leo. This is my opposite. I just love my Aquarians. Okay. But her sun is in that very dreamy 12th house. This is her Pisces energy. Now, Ka's moon, though, is in Taurus, which is very different. And it is in the 3rd house of communication. So, where her emotions lie, she has to have a very grounded emotions. And then Ka has her ascendant in the sign of Pisces, which we talked a little bit about. That gives her that really dreamy quality. Okay. So she's got some air, some water, and some earth going on. Okay. That's a lot. And it's also not a lot of fire. And so this is an interesting air and water, which never actually meet air and earth, which never actually meet. So it's a very kind of vata, kapha energy that you're carrying. Okay. So these are two people, there's a balance here that Will brings to Ka, I have to say, because, when you're dealing with like 3 different elements like that, and there's many more in there, you do need someone who has that groundedness and that depth. And also Ka, just because I know this about her, she comes from a lot of Scorpio. There's a lot of people in her family are Scorpio. So she really, is very familiar with Will's energy too. Okay. What I want to talk about is your Venus, because one of the first things I noticed, Will, is that your Venus is in the sign of Virgo. This is an earth sign. You're very attracted to the earth angel energy. I imagine that you've always had an affinity for service, for being of service, and where we see Will's Venus is in Ka's 7th house of intimate partnership. So it's almost as if Will loves to be in service to this relationship. There is this kind of almost like earth angel divinity. It is a devotion. I'm a Venus in Virgo myself, right? So there is this thing of when I'm in a relationship with this woman, because you're in her 7th house of intimate partnerships, I'm devoted to this union. Now, I'll also point out that Ka has her vertex, which represents faded moments in your life, right? Will's Venus is right on her vertex. So this is a connection. These 2 people were supposed to meet and to create this union. It's kind of like, ooh. Yeah, it's kind of like, and it was all, just a matter of time, right? Just a matter of time, right? Now, in terms of Ka, her Venus is over here, and it is in the sign of Capricorn. But you'll notice that the 2 of you both have your Venuses in the 11th house of friends and community, which means this is a very friend and community-oriented couple. And they most likely met through their community. Yes, exactly. Because this is a normal. And also, they are good friends. That's what part of it. That's like, when you both have the Venus in the 11th house, it's like you actually look for in your circles, in your friendship circles for love connections. And you actually view your friends like lovers as well. It's like, there are many spectrums of love, but you have many different ways of loving, but you love your friends and you love being part of community together. Now, Ka's Venus is in Capricorn, and it's in the 11th house, and it's very close to, or it's also, part of Will's Eros here, okay? His passion sign and what is passionate for him. You'll notice that Will has Eros in the 3rd house of communications, media, singing, writing, poetry, all that lovely stuff, right? And I also point out here, I'm just going to say this for the 2 of you, Will also has his Dejanira, which is called a victim asteroid, and it basically represents where we feel like a bit of a victim. Whenever I've seen a déjeuner in a third house, it usually is someone who is very good with words because words were painful at one point for them, and or communication was painful, or the way they or their thoughts may have even been painful, and they express their pain through their words. So it's a really, having that, having your Venus in that third house for him is you help that in some way. Ka. Now let's talk about. Do you guys have any questions so far? Before
This
I
is
No,
keep
this
fun.
is
going?
awesome.
I'm so
Okay.
saturated in it. It
Okay.
feels
Cool.
very resonant, on point. Yeah.
Do you both feel as if, like in terms of when you did meet, did it feel like a fated moment, or when you connected?
Absolutely, to me.
Yeah, I mean, we first met a while back, like in 2019 at the tea house, but we were like kind of crossing different ways and went like
Mhm.
I went to Shasta, he went to New York. But when we came back together this time, it was like instant, like the day one, and then we never stopped hanging out.
And it just continues, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah.
Ah, I love that. I love hearing about, like, one of the things I love about astrology and working with people is being able to see it show up in the lives of people,
Yeah.
something like a vertex and what that felt like.
Yeah.
Um,
In
mhm.
hindsight, though, every time we did connect in the way, way past, which wasn't tons of times, it
Mhm.
did feel like there was this like slowing down of everything around you, and it was like you
Mm.
just
I
dropped in.
always loved it when she came in. I was working there, and I was always just like so happy to see her. Like
Right.
you and Megan would come in, and I was
Yeah.
always just like really happy you were both there. But
Yeah.
you know,
So I think it was there, but we were just like, crossing in different streams at the time that didn't allow for the moment, which seems like did this time.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I kind of like that too, because you were in a friendship setting. You kind
Mm-hmm.
of knew each other as friends before. You were
Yep.
acquaintances at least. And even that, having a vertex there, I mean, that's your natal chart, meaning the two of you were supposed to meet. And we'll talk a little bit later about the timing of that in your charts. But like it's like could only have happened when it was time for it to happen. It could not have
Yeah.
happened before,
That makes
and that's also lovely too.
Yeah, and I think that in those 3 years before we reconnected, we both went through a lot of like initiations and growth and sort of
Mm,
ripening. So I feel like, this time it was like really, like you said, it was just like meant for that time.
mm,
I mean, we were inseparable after like we hung out the
The whole
whole time.
time.
I think after
Yeah.
6 to 10 hours of me being there, we were
Yeah.
already hanging out. It was just like couldn't stop.
What was that like to drop in like that? Because I imagine that a lot of trust was established very quickly.
I mean, for me, it just felt effortless and natural. Like, I feel like my nervous system kind of just like drops and rests around Will. And so it just, I don't know, it just, there wasn't even a question of trust. It just was there.
Mm,
Same, but like I found my best friend who was just like really fast, just like obvious, you know,
obvious.
super obvious.
I want to talk a little bit about that moment because I'm looking at this Mars, right?
Mhm.
This is Mars. Mars is this is Ka's Mars. And this is where she gets all that Scorpio energy from, even though she's not a Scorpio. Her Mars is in the eighth house of Scorpio, as well as her
Yeah.
Pluto and her Saturn. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, Mars represents that sexuality, that need for that a deeper union, even a healing union, a shaman type of union. Um, that Pluto is definitely where you are seeking truth, and it's like you cannot have you cannot have a union that's surface for you,
Right.
right? It's got to be you're like a detective. You're like it has got to be the root of it or none at all.
Yeah.
But you also have Saturn there, and Saturn is where we are almost an authority. Saturn represents where time slows down. So it's interesting that you talked about that, Ka, like having this moment of just like rest with him. This is that Saturn energy. Saturn represents constriction, and not constriction in the sense of like being tied down, but more the constriction that one needs, like training wheels, the thing that someone needs in order to progress and move forward, that safety of a ring. If you think of Saturn having rings around it, but the safety that you have to now be able to move forward and create, right? And so this is what he brings. I mean, well, this is what Ka has, Saturn in the 8th house, but because Will clearly has his sun, his Mercury, and his Pluto, and his North Node in her 8th house. This is a lot of the established foundation of the two of your relationships. You both clearly have stelliums here in this 8th house of Scorpio. Now your Mars, Ka, is in Will's 12th house, in his subconscious house. And what I think is so interesting about that, you have all these planets in his 12th house, but there is this way that you have you understand his subconscious. It can, Will is telepathic, we know that, but he's also has Mercury in the 12th house, so there's the evidence. But there's a lot of Will that he isn't totally aware of, that is deep in the subconscious, that you get it. And so there's a calm and a peace that comes with, maybe I'm confused, but my partner isn't. She gets me completely, and so it is, again, you provide both, you provide safety for each other in these ways. Also, Will has his North Node in your 8th house. This is his soul purpose. Is in having a soul purpose. It's this thing that gives him meaning. Being able to dive into the depths of you gives him a lot of meaning. Being able to unearth you and understand you. So it's really a beautiful union. I would say this is not a surface union, though. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not a faint of heart relationship. This is not the wedding. This is very much after, um, so so Mars being in that 12th house, also, Ka, Mars in the 12th house gives this kind of intergalactic sexual connection, and you two might have even experienced these kind of tantric or experiences when you're with each other, that can be like otherworldly, but it is that kind of otherworldly connection in a sexual sense that you're able to explore and drop in. I've often said, when I see this with couples, that it's like the you creating, there's you, there's him, and then there's the other. It's a connection to source. It's there's 3 beings in the room, and there is almost a channeling that's happening. Would you describe it that way, or what would you
Definitely.
describe it like?
I mean, I feel like we're just getting started, but yeah, I feel like it's very like lucid, right? And pretty much, I mean, you described it beautifully, really. You described astrology and the symbolism so beautifully. So I definitely resonate with that.
I mean, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Kind of feel like I go in a trance a little bit.
Really good. Thank you so much.
We get
What's
trancy.
that?
We get trancy.
You get trancy. All right, let it out.
forget tantra. We go trancy.
Yeah.
Trancy. Gotcha. Which I think is pretty cool. Thank you for explaining that and like deepening into that for us. Will has, now this is what I think is very fun. So in terms of, sexual connection in the Mars energy, Ka brings that kind of otherworldly quality to Will. But Will's Mars is in Ka's 5th house of children. And also his Jupiter is there as well. Okay. And usually when you see this, you would say that these are people who would have lots of children together. If you see this now, for those of us who don't know you, what's going on with kids between the two of you?
Well, together we have 5 kids that we're bringing together. So there's quite a lot of kids there.
There's quite a lot of kids. Yeah. Yeah. And how are they interacting? Like, how is that?
My boys are my whole family totally loves Ka. It's pretty awesome. But my boys are particularly like they light up when she's around, and
Mm.
so far,
Yeah.
I love your kids.
It feels so organic
cool
and natural, you know.
It really does to me.
Natural. I love that. This is, I mean, Will is, with regards to you, Ka, he's a natural father, having Jupiter in the 5th house and having Mars in your 5th house, I should say, not just in the 5th house, but because it's actually in his 9th house, but having Jupiter and Mars in your 5th house. Also, you'll notice that his Mars is conjunct your North Node, which represents what gives you meaning, right?
Right.
And this is all in the sign of Cancer, which is a very home oriented. I imagine the two of you spend a lot of time at home, to be honest.
My last name's home.
What's that?
I said, well, our last name's home now.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But also, the two of you like live separately. You live across.
Right.
So you're in, and talk a little bit about that, like, because that's a whole other type of relationship too.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously gives us just a deep appreciation, right, for when we get to spend that time in home together. I think we really highly value that. And it's, it's challenging too, of course. We miss each other.
Yeah. It's hard to miss somebody so much. Like, I miss you, like, all the time when I'm not here.
Yeah.
It's hard. But it pushes me to actually want to excel and grow and function in a more efficient, abundant way so that we can be together more. So it's actually honestly pushing me really deeply to change and like excel right now. So it's good.
It's always good. It's always exactly on time. It's
Right.
always built just the way it's supposed to be. Will has his Mars in Cancer, in the sign of Cancer, and he has his Jupiter in Cancer as well, which Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. This is going to be actually a very big year for you, Will, in particular, as I'm recording this podcast on January 15th, 2025. We are going to be having Jupiter moving into the sign of Cancer. Around June of this year. And this is an exalted year. It's kind of profound, actually. And because Ka is a Pisces rising, and she'll be having the North Node, or it's already there, actually. The North Node is moving into Pisces. This is a pretty interesting. It's interesting that the two of you met each other in right before 2 very big years for the two of you. And so just something to put out there. I don't think that was a mistake. And so, Ka, you have your vertex in the 7th house natally. And so relationships for you are always pivotal, committed relationships.
Yeah.
They always put you on a different path or teach you something. You're just never the same, after that committed relationship.
That's not true for everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Well, no, some people just keep it moving. Some people are like, okay, that's done. Thank you, next. So yeah, no, it's like having a vertex there means like every committed partner you have teaches you something, takes your life in a different direction. It's fated to be that way. And for Will, he has his vertex in the 8th house. And that usually means that you have, Will has a really, I would call these psychological downloads because his vertex is in Gemini and it's in the 8th house. There's a lot that Will is connected to in terms of like family lineage. There's a lot that Will was meant to decipher. That curiosity of understanding the underbelly of things and having fated moments happen in his life that that he's meant to have, for better or for worse. Because I'm gonna be real. This is an 8th house. This is a Scorpio house. This is kind of like having a Kundalini moments over and over and over again, where you are unlocking information, Will, about your lineage all the time and communicating it. I would say this is a shaman of the mind. You know, you remember that movie Inception?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's like that would be Will. Will is that person who can probably go into people's dreams and go in there and navigate that world. Remember that movie, how random weird things would happen. That's how Will lives his everyday life. Okay. You know, random Will, you know, things that we'd be like, did you just see that? And he'd be like, I saw that. I saw all of it, you know? And now I'm going to go, you know, have a cigarette, you know, it's like, that's a Tuesday. That's just Tuesday for Will,
It's
you
just
know? So yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about you. Well, would you agree with that, or would you say it another way?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know, loved
Mm,
ones come to me in my dreams to say goodbye. You know, like
wow.
yeah, I have a lot of that
Yeah.
connected with that.
Connected. I imagine this year you will, you know, I mean, it's very clear you're a channel, Will. You know, you are meant to channel and I'm sorry, what was
I
that?
said, so is she.
Well, yeah, for the two of you for sure.
Yeah,
You know, but you're both channels for sure. I think with this Lilith right on this vertex here, Will, you know, you are a channel for there's a rebellious thing that you've got going on. It's like you're channeling a manifesto is what I would call this. And then you're telling us about it, you know. It's like you have a desire for people to be free thinkers, which is why you're attracted to an Aquarius. um, so, so let's talk about what was going on when the two of you met. Okay. So I
you're
went back
really
to.
good at
I know
this.
this is so
Holy
fun.
mackerel, she's so good at this. Sorry,
Ah,
I have
thank
to
you.
say.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I love doing this, so I appreciate it. Um, Will, I'm going to talk a little bit just about what was going on for you. So, um, you know, we kind of figured out, you know, around June 14th is when you two kind of connected.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, like Will and Ka connected. They've been inseparable ever since. They are now committed partners. They are now married
Yeah.
partners. They carry each other's names. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is less than a year here.
Yeah.
And so this happened very, very quickly. And you know, if you were to be around them right now, you would never think, because it's like it's like they were always that way. You know, they were always this unit. For Will around that time, we want to also, for all my astrology heads or people who are, you know, wanting to learn more about astrology, we always want to take a look at what was going on. Will's vertex, which is right here, okay, that faded point that we were talking about. Um, Will had a bunch of planets right on top of his vertex when he reconnected with Ka. He had Mercury
Mm-hmm.
there, he had his Sun there, and he also had his Venus there. Okay, Venus being what he's attracted to. So all of his attention is on this fated moment, basically. And it's in his eighth house. And the eighth house is that Scorpio energy. So I often say, you know, the seventh house is our house of committed partnerships. Yes, right. But I often feel like the seventh house is basically the newlywed phase, and the eighth house is the real relationship. You know, this is the shadow house. This is when you see the deepest parts of each other, and there is an acceptance of those parts. So there was a lot going on for Will at that time. He also had Jupiter there, you know, so Will, there may have been some things going on in your family at that time, or even, you know, eighth house is a house of possible physical death and transformation. So there may have been some transformations or things going on with your family at that time. That you were the communicator. You know, this Jupiter is you were the communicator at that time, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's like when you have Jupiter, and I do have Jupiter natally in my eighth house, you are somebody who is always present when bad things happen to other people, basically. And and that is your ability to be able to sit there and be with them, and to see it, but to be able to put a optimistic slant on it, you know, to be able to say, this is why this is happening. I see the big picture, right? You don't hold their pain, but you decipher it for them. and you give it meaning. And so there was some energy of that going on at that time as well, for you. For Ka, she was experiencing her moon was in her seventh house of intimate partnerships at this time, right on her vertex, right? So this is an emotional connection to this fated moment, and in a way it was like she was very emotionally open at that time. I don't know if she would have been any other time, I have to say.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm just be real, I don't know, like, if she would have been, Ka has some heavy earth placements, right? And so, needing stability, needing security, not totally open. And she's had some experiences with Scorpio energy. So no, she probably wouldn't have been really open. It had to be that time, and it had to be you. Um,
That's right.
I don't know if you remember that at that time, Ka. Do you remember what it was like, or where you were emotionally, or in terms of open to relationship? Just
Yeah, I had very sort of not so far from that time sort of let go of like pursuing, and I really felt in my being, I was like, oh, somebody's coming into my life. And I even said out loud to my friends, and it's going to be a musician. Like I said those things. And so I just let it all go. But it was from a confidence of feeling like something was coming, and I didn't necessarily know who or when, but so I guess that was an openness, right? To just,
mm,
oh, like, um, yeah, that's kind of where I was right before.
yeah.
I had been on a journey kind of the whole year before of just like going to retreats and doing some like healing work and um, healing some difficult relationship stuff. And like at that particular moment, I feel like it had been cleared, like 6 months prior to that, probably not. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Um, Thank you for sharing that, Ka. um, there's a couple of other indicators on the chart. I always say the chart is redundant. It's almost like, well, if you didn't get it that time, here's another one. And so at that time, Ka also had her Jupiter in her fourth house. Jupiter in the fourth house is Jupiter. A lot of people say Jupiter's lucky. I said it myself. What I've come to understand about Jupiter is that it is simply an expansion of perception.
Mm,
And the luck and the wealth that we manifest from Jupiter is simply us opening up to it, basically being open to this happening. With Jupiter in Ka's fourth house, she was open to generosity and abundance coming into her home,
mm,
basically, which is her safest space. Um, and so this was something she was ready for. Also, Jupiter at that time, Jupiter also the fourth house can also represent things like property. So you may have had to move or got a bigger place, or there might have been things going on or some people. So you were offered resources around the home, or maybe you got new furniture, whatever it is, but it's like some sort of abundance coming into the home, or maybe having to switch homes, but it ended up being for the best kind of thing
yeah,
going on at that
that did
time.
happen.
That did happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
it did.
And so let's see. And in terms of Will, I'm just going to take a little quick look real quick here. I always like to check. Will was in this place, of course, with his Jupiter was in his eighth house. He was open to the truth. He is always open to the truth, but especially at that time. Um, and also, Will had his Mars in his seventh house of committed partnerships. So there was Will was looking, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe if he was aware of it or not, he was looking to connect in a committed way, to put his energy into a committed partnership.
It's true.
Also, I will say that Will had his Uranus up here in the seventh house for roughly 6 years at that point. Whenever I see Uranus in the seventh house, Uranus represents wanting freedom from something. And so when it's Uranus is in the seventh house, we often call it the 7-year itch in astrology. Like I'm itching for something new. And it doesn't mean that you're switching partners, you're switching the type of committed relationship or the type of commitment that you want to make.
That couldn't be more true. It's amazing.
Oh, what was going on for you at that time?
I was, I think, cleaning house and really being with myself for quite a while and dealing with wanting to clean up my act around being a committed partner and also being more sober and like just getting my health and myself in order. So I don't really, I mean, it was a lot of things going on, but I kind of literally verbally said, like, you know, I'm ready to do this. Like, I'm ready to be that committed partner. Like, it became very clear, like, right around that time. So,
Wow. Wow. I love hearing this. I love hearing it land, and I always invite you to, express it the way that because I can only use from my point of reference. So thank you for expressing it the way that you would express it.
yeah.
So the two of you, before we head out, we have a little time, and is there anything you want to check out in terms of specifics about each other or about the relationship, whether that's like
How can we
communication
how
styles?
can we nourish and feed our creative yearning to exist together and find some good ways to make some money doing it so we can be supported in our amazing home that we're going to
I like
build
that
for
question.
ourselves?
Oh, right. Okay.
I like that question.
So one of the things that I think is quite natural for the two of you, you're both artists,
Mm-hmm.
and we can see that here in this fifth house. The fifth house is the artist house. It's the creative house. It's the childlike house, right? Your childlike house is ruled by Cancer, or at least the aspects that you have together are ruled by Cancer. And so it's very clear that the two of you were meant to create something together, whether that was a
Sure.
family, that kind of thing. I will point out here that you also have uh, something to do with fortune together. Ka has her part of fortune, which is a part of Arabic astrology, natally in her fifth house, which means her creativity was always meant to bring her that. And,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about astrology, Western astrology is not as old as, say, Arabic astrology or Vedic astrology or Chinese astrology. So I always want us to keep in mind the what ancient Arabic astrology considered to be a fortune might be very different from what we consider that
Right.
to be today, right? Sometimes the fortune isn't just an abundance. I know for a fact they did not have billionaires at that time. So,
Yeah.
so it's like, what was a fortune back then? Could be an abundance, but we can absolutely interpret it for this, whatever fortune means to you. Your part of fortune, Ka, is in the sign of Cancer. So this is an abundance of emotion, an abundance of having that. And also Cancer also represents energy of like the household name, because Cancer represents the house, and in kind of fame degrees it would be a household name, the kind of person that is known, maybe not super super famous, but is like known by people,
Yeah.
like people speak about you in their home, that kind of thing. Now, you'll see that Will's got his Jupiter right on that part of fortune. So it's almost as if he's expanding your ability, your creative abilities in this way, right?
Definitely.
Um, I would suggest the two of you do create something together. And that but it be something among that in that emotional healing realm. Okay. Um, and
Sounds like
that's because Will's got his Mars in Cancer and his Jupiter in Cancer, right? And Will's going to have a big year, so this would probably be the year to do it, I would say.
right. Right.
Um, Now let's look at your money house, okay? Because over here in the second house, we have Will has got his South node in the sixth house, and that's in Ka's second house. But you guys actually have a stellium here in the eighth house. Now, the second house and the eighth house are the money houses in astrology. Second house representing the money you make for yourself in like a 9 to 5 type of stability, security type of thing. The eighth house representing money you get from others, people through perhaps inheritances or spouses, right? Making money for each other or through the union. It could also be just be like tax rebates, things like that, right? When you have a stellium like this in the eighth house, and it's between your Ka's eighth house and Will's 12th house, you will be making money from the generosity and resources of others. And so you want to focus on something that you can offer to people and then they can give something back to you. It's not going to be a 9 to 5. It's not going to be a like paycheck type of thing every 2 weeks. It's this is about generosity. This is about offering medicine basically to people and being paid in return through resources and abundance and money. Okay. Will's got his Mercury here and his Sun is here and his Pluto is here. And this is all in your subconscious, Will. So this is about what you're channeling. You're channeling something, that's bringing this forth. Ka is going to be the distributor of this though, because she's got her Mars in there. So I would say it's what the two of you create together in written form. Something that's written, expressed. You've got this Mars conjunct Mercury here. So this has to do with your communication and how you communicate to other people. So perhaps it's like writing an album together and presenting that to people. Or some simply channeling something together and presenting that as a written book or written word, that kind of thing. Ka's got this longevity here with Saturn. So this is something that could very much create legacy between the two of you. But stick to the realms of this is an offering from that is a healing for people. Does that resonate with the two of you?
So much.
Literally talking about it today, like just about basically wanting to create and help people heal and play and open up again and how we could do it together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat.
And through like, like journeys. So like breathwork journeys, but also with expressive arts involved. So it kind of connects both of those elements you're talking about, like the fifth house stuff.
Yeah.
That area. Yeah.
I love Well, I love that you mentioned play because that Mars energy and this fifth house energy, like that's what this is about. So definitely this is going to be more playful. It's not going to just be like, oh, we're going to go like,
rob a bank or something.
Yeah, it's like, no. We're not going to just do a bunch of therapy. Like this is going to be something playful and energetic and I like it.
That play is the healing element in my mind, at least at this point in my life.
Yeah, right? For sure. Well, the two of you, my goodness, I have had it was such a pleasure.
I'm so thankful. I try not to cry. I'm like, it just resonates a lot. Like it's super resonating with me. So thank you.
I'm so grateful.
Your art with words. I don't know what your Mercury is in, but your art with words and taking the astrology and making it land in a really beautiful way and approachable. So there's a lot of it's wonderful astrologers, but people go to them and it's like all tech language or astrology language, right? I feel like you're like got that down to earth.
Very inspiring to like. I'm so excited. Even more so, I didn't know it was possible to be with her. But, I feel like that every day anyway, but thanks for
it actually really validated what we've felt and thought about as far as what we want to do moving forward and just what we feel right now with each other, so that feels really good.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Will and Ka Holm, for being here and for letting me pick at your brain, your collective brain together and talk about your relationship and your union. It was such a pleasure and a joy. And I'm very
honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's listening and looking forward to the next one. In the meantime, take care.